We are officially live on Facebook and we are on the radio because it is the Thursday edition of the Natural Average Investor Show, the JWB Rental Property of the Week. Today, we're going to look at a property that is already rented with a resident through 2023, will generate positive cash flow, and is located in one of JWB's core neighborhoods surrounded by hundreds of successful clients. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, a man that I like to call GC because he knows how to generate cash flows, because he's got genius concepts, because he's a great co-host, and because look at him. His name is clearly Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Great to be with you.
Great to be with you, too. Today, we got our guest investor in the house. He is royalty around these parts. He's known as the patriarch of the first family of the Natural Average Investor Show, joining us for the second time when he was one of our first client guests that came on and taught us all about reverse mortgages and how he changed his financial future with this kind of quirky play that people don't know too much about. But today he's going to help us analyze a property. He is Ken Moline. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you, Greg and Pablo.
Great to have you, Ken, and a new star of the show that's going to be joining us in some moments. And we're going to have some segments where she joins in and others. It's our community manager, Madison. Madison, welcome back to the show as well. Good to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy you guys can see me this time, not just hear me. So hello.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, live in the flesh. I love it. Cool. Great to have you, Madison. And as we talk about it, we're on the radio now. It's a Thursday. It's the property of the week. We like to tell you, if you're listening on the radio and you want to join this party, it's as fun as it sounds. If you're listening on the podcast, same thing. Go to nyais.com, register for one of the live shows. We promise you're going to want to return, just like the rest of our community that returns. And that's why we do the roll call. Y'all ready for the roll call?
Absolutely.
Let's go. John Henning, good afternoon, all. We got Madison's checking in the chat, too. Drew Barnhill, good afternoon, everybody. Karen, the Duchess of the first family, who's in the house also with Ken in the background. She says hi, all. Dean Curry's in the house. Good afternoon, everybody. Leo's joining us from California. Nadeem is checking in from the West Coast, too. Hi, everybody. Who else we got? I know Carolyn's in the house. There you go. There's Carolyn, the matriarch of the first family of the Natural Average Investor Show. We got Lee Bishop, the MVP of the Natural Average Investor Show community. We got Anthony Ditta joining us. Happy Thursday from South Florida. Who else we got checking in here? We got Joanna, who's back with us as well. We got Jen Filzen, the fairy godmother of the Natural Average Investor Show community. She's in the house. Who else we got? All right, rolling through. Noah Randari. Noah's back. Good to have you in the house, Noah. Happy to have you. We got Marilyn Cotterman from Homosassa, Florida.
Home of the manatees.
Home of the manatees. She puts in the chat, hanging with the manatees. Love it, Marilyn. I just see you hanging with manatees all the time. I assume you live amongst them. Who else we got? Dean. Did we say hi to Dean? Dean Curry's checking in. I don't know if you had checked in, but it's good to have everybody back in the house for one of these guest investor profiles. And guess what? We got some open spots for the guest investor. If you are hanging out with us right now and you want to be a guest investor on the show, we got March 24th, March 31st, and what's the month after March? April. We got April 2nd. I think it is. Anyways, we got a couple shows open. If you want to be a guest investor and you want to hang out, let us know in the chat. Madison's hanging out. She can make that happen for you. As we say, this is a crowd-generated show, right? We love you hanging out with us in the chat. We love you throwing questions into the Q&A box as well so that we can get them asked live on the show. I also think we got a little breaking news, GC. Are you ready for some breaking news?
Yeah, so I was just thinking about things that sometimes are misunderstood of investment properties overall, especially in this environment where rents are rapidly increasing. Sometimes when I'm speaking or talking to potential clients, I say, you know what? Long-term leases are the greatest correlation to long-term success in rental properties, because the way to win in rental properties is to have residents that stay a long time. And if you sign long-term leases, chances are that you're going to have longer resident stays and you're going to win. And a common objection I hear is, well, if I lock myself into a lease for 2 or 3 years, then I won't be able to take advantage of rising rents in the market. Common misconception. The first misconception is, the first thing that I want to say about this is how cool is it that the market is so on fire, that rents are so on fire, that people are worried about capturing rent increases. When I started to invest in 2006, I had to convince people that you can actually increase rents year over year. It's just a completely different world. So I just think it's amazing. It's a value to, or it's a credit to this asset class that you're investing in a critical need for folks that is a hedge against inflation. As inflationary times happen, rents tend to rise. So I just think that's a pretty cool space that we're all in, that we're trying to capture really high rent increases. But you can do the best of both worlds. You can sign long-term leases and you can get rent increases year over year. So I wanted to shed some light on how we do that at JWB and really what you should hold your property managers accountable to. So at JWB, we sign 2 or 3 year leases and we get 4 to 6% rent increases year over year. So if you sign a 2-year lease, depending on the amount of your lease, you will get between a 4 to a 6% rent increase that next year. And we also want to make sure that this is a win for the resident long-term, right? We want to make sure we're going to win as owners, and we want to make sure the resident's going to win long-term. We're going to win with lower maintenance and vacancy costs if that resident stays a long time. And so the win that we give to property or to residents is that 3rd year of rent. If they sign a 3-year lease, that 3rd year of rent is going to remain constant, right? So the trade you're making is potentially giving up maybe 4 to maybe 6% of a rent increase, which is like $50 a month. Call that, whatever, $600 a year. You're potentially saving $5,000 to $6,000 in costs by giving up 1 year of maybe $500 to $600, a trade that we would all make. But beyond that, you get 4 to 6% rent increases. And then you know what that happens when they renew? We bring them right back up to where market value rent is. So it's a win across the board. You win with long-term rent, long-term resident stays, and you still get rent increases year over year. It's the way to win.
Stay tuned. We're on the radio right now. Soon on the radio, you're going to hear long-term leases and rent increases. Gregg's hit single. It's a breakdancing song of all the breaking news that happens with rent increases.
Love this.
Coming up soon. All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. But for right now, let's introduce our guest investor, star of our show, Ken Moline. We're about to dive into a rental property. Then we're going to dive into your journey. But first, why don't you tell us, how many properties do you have? What does your real estate portfolio look like these days, Ken?
We have a total of 6 properties. We picked up 2 in September of 2019, picked up a 3rd one in January of 2020, and 2 more in February of 2020. And the last one we got in October of 2020. We were going gangbusters in February of 2020. We thought, this is such a good program, let's get up to 5. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit. And we had a lot of worries on our plates. And I remember a program where Gregg was there, and he says, as long as we keep the cash flow going, we're not worried about housing prices or that sort of thing declining. So that's where we're at, 6 homes. I don't know if I want to say this now, maybe, since it's on the tip of my tongue, I will. We are contemplating adding to our portfolio. And the way we are going to do that, we have 4 homes that are owned totally. We have 2 homes that we purchased with the help of the bank with mortgages. But we first set out on this journey, we told Mike Stewart, we need a couple $1,000s more in cash flow. Well, what we're getting now is an average cash flow of over $6,000 a month from these 6 homes. So we thought, well, we can back off a little bit. We can take one of those homes and take out a cash out mortgage on it. And we're in the process of doing that. We have a conditional offer from the bank, and we expect to have that close. I think March 9th is the date that we'll close that loan. And then we'll be ready to march on and buy a couple more homes this year.
What a beautiful thing, Ken. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, to your entire family, for the trust that you guys have put in us. We didn't know each other before, probably 2 years ago. And in just 2 short years, your family has meant a lot to our family at JWB. And we're just delighted to serve you, your wife, your daughter, Karen, Ed, her husband, and the entire Moline family. So thank you. Thank you for being here too.
Thank you.
I'm really, really curious to just kind of get inside your head a little bit more, because your journey is very inspiring. And you mentioned to me that you had some advice for folks that are seniors and that are looking to invest. And, for many seniors, they think of the idea of owning rental properties as appealing because of consistency of cash flows. If I had to peg it a little bit more, they would tend to go more towards owning in cash than using mortgages. And you have purchased 6 properties in a place that you never probably spent much time, if any time, thousands of miles away from your home with a team that you didn't know 2 years ago. So that's a little unique. And then you bought 6, 2 of which are financed, 4 are owned in cash. So you were open to the financing. And now you're going more into the financed angle. Could you tell people why this makes sense for you?
Well, our first look at this was, our first goal was to create the cash flow that we needed. And like I said, I needed a couple $1,000s. I'd like to pay my property taxes here in Los Altos when due. They're due in December and April. And I'd like to pay my home insurance, my auto insurance, and a couple of life insurance policies when those bills come due. So those are kind of big hits in our pocketbook. So if we were able to come up with $2,000 a month cash flow, we could bank some of it, and when we needed it, use it and go on from there. Now, when we got to where we were going to finance one, that was about the time that we first visited Jacksonville. We took advantage of the program that you had in place then, which I understand you have restored.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a meeting of owners and potential owners at your offices, and an explanation of your program, and a visit to some of the building sites, some of the completed homes. So we got to participate in that and got a little better acquainted with all you folks. And at that time, I did not know whether, being a retired civil engineer, I didn't know whether the fact that I didn't have any paychecks would weigh into the issue of getting a bank loan on a house. Fortunately, I guess our equity in other homes stood up well for us, and we were granted the first loan seemingly without a whole lot of problems. And so we signed the papers on that in January of 2020. So I'm not sure if I got to the answer to your question.
Yeah, I think for many people, it's a little scary to take out a loan on a property.
Well, let me
right?
deal with the issue of the reverse mortgage. I live in California and Silicon Valley. We have seen, believe it or not, something like about a 10% increase in appreciation over many, many years. And you can take this home, which we built 44 years ago for $100,000, and it's now worth over $3 million. So we had a lot of equity built up in it, but it was sitting there and not helping us a lot. We were still struggling with paying all our bills. So I had a friend who was a broker for jumbo reverse mortgages, and we had a chat, and he signed us up to apply for a jumbo reverse, and we took out some of the equity in our home and ended up with over $800,000 to put into the program with JWB. Now, not every place in the country is seeing great appreciation, but if you're a senior and you have lived in your house for 20, 30, 40 years, you probably have a great appreciation in that home that you don't realize is really a kind of a golden egg for you there. You can take advantage of that and use it. And the good thing about the reverse mortgages is that when you take out the mortgage, you don't have to pay any principal and interest back. The amount of interest that accrues on it is simply added to the principal. And if you're in a place like California, our home values are going up like $300,000 a year. And my mortgage or my mortgage interest is running maybe $70,000, $80,000 a year. So it's a no-brainer for me to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, Ken, I think I'm seeing so many correlations between your story and the story of Moan, who we had last week on the show, right? Moan was in California and he saw that he had a lot of equity in his home. And this was back in 2006, I believe. So a different time. But what he said is, I can take this equity rather than that just sitting there doing nothing. I can tap into that equity and then I can use that to create cash flow. And through that, we were able to show 15 years later through that strategy with Moan, he was able to create almost $190,000 in real cash flow hitting his bank account by doing that strategy. He used a home equity line of credit, which is something different than a reverse mortgage. In your case, you did the same thing. You used a reverse mortgage, and it's not one size fits all. But I think the key takeaway is that if you have equity in your home, one way that you can create cash flow might be rental properties. Now you need to sit down and talk with a professional. This is not saying everybody should just go out and do that, but there are risk mitigated ways for you to do this that might be able to pay your property taxes or a life insurance bill in Ken's situation, or whatever it might be, a cell phone bill. That's what you want to pay, right? We've had clients who have said that, right? So the key takeaway here is expanding your mind a little bit beyond just your active income, tapping into other sources and resources that you may have to create cash flow, to create that financial wealth, is a lesson that I know we all can learn from here.
And I should add in real quickly that the amount of equity that you can take out of your home with a reverse mortgage is, even with a jumbo reverse mortgage, is probably limited to about 50% of the value of the home. So that's where we stand.
Just like Drew Barnhill puts here in the chat, there's so many financing strategies. Just got to find one that works for your situation, Ken. We're happy you were able to do that with the reverse mortgage. So now let's look at inventory, right? And stuff that's out there. Let's take a look at this property of the week. Ken, and you who are, right now in the market looking for a potential property, let us know what you think of this thing as we magically whisk ourselves away to 3158 3rd Street Circle, Jacksonville, Florida, 32254. We're looking at a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home with a purchase price of $155,000. It's got a driveway. It's got an estimated rent range between $1,125 and $1,180 per month. And what we like to talk about here on the show often is it's got this conventional financing total monthly cash flow of $186 a month, and this conventional financing total ROI of 9.59%. GC, real quick, what do you like about this house?
Man, I thought you'd never ask. The thing I like the most about this house is I can come confidently and tell you that this house is going to net you a lower interest rate on your loan than most other houses that are available, because this home is already renovated. It is already rented, which for you means that you can purchase a home that is already rented now, right? You don't have to wait for construction delays. And the reason that I can tie this back to a lower interest rate for you is that lower interest rates are here now. Interest rates in the future are going to be higher because of the Fed's activity in terms of tapering, which means stopping pumping money into the economy through quantitative easing and through raising short-term interest rates. Those things have happened. They have already bumped rates slightly, and those will continue to bump rates over the next year. So there is a real value for being able to put under contract a property that you can lock in your interest rate today. And this is a property you can do that. We have other homes available that you can do that. And whatever deal I put in front of you, know that there's a value if it can be put under contract and interest rate locked today over one that has to wait 3 months, 5 months, 7 months down the road, which is what normal people have to wait when they're trying to buy rental properties at this point in time.
That makes a lot of sense, Ken. why don't you tell us, what do you see when you look at this thing? Is there anything you like? Is there anything that you're looking for when you're evaluating deals, since you've done so many of them so far? What do you like about this?
Well, the important thing with this house is that the renovation is complete and there are tenants in place. That would be very appealing to me. I think you could do a very quick turnaround on a loan and put it in your portfolio.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How does this thing look? I mean, this is like an adorable little like cottage house. Is this kind of what you bought when you first saw Ken? Is this a little bit different when you're looking at it or looking at the numbers?
You know, that question was raised in my preparation paper. They said, how did you go about looking for a house? And I was, of course, used to all the California ranch style, single family, a lot of single stories, some two stories, but and 2-car garages on this home doesn't even have a garage, and at least that I can see. So when I first got a list of 10 properties from Mike Stewart, we looked at all those and we thought, we tossed out probably 2 or 3 because they only had single car garages. One of the homes that appealed to us that we eventually bought, I'm going to put up on the screen here, is on Brooker. No, I take it back. This is on Cocoa Avenue, a nice little freshly built, freshly painted, 2-car garage home. And that appealed to us. But at the same time, the second house that we bought in the same package for cash was a townhouse. And this was on Play School Lane. Quite a difference between the two. I got my 1-car garage and I got my 2-car garage. So at that time, this was in August of 2019, we didn't have the Not Your Average Investor show. And the only thing I had to go on was a series of video walkthroughs of the house. You could walk into the house. I think Gregg was the host on some of those. You walked into the kitchen, into the living room, saw the nice floors, the nice countertops in the kitchen, 2-car, the garage, 1-car or 2-car, didn't matter. And that was what we had to go on. That was what kind of appealed to us as a sound investment, was the quality of construction.
That's amazing. I
There you
mean, that's a big leap. And I'd like to just kind of recognize the leap that you made. I would assume that, actually, I probably shouldn't assume. Ken, you and your family, had you ever made an investment similar to buying a rental property thousands of miles away from where you live in your investments in the past prior to this?
We've had a few investments. One investment was in Colorado, and it was kind of a compilation of funds into a project. Unfortunately, that whole project went bankrupt, and we lost our $15,000 investment. So I've been through other types of investments that have been not so good or bad, so you learn from them.
Well, and even more credit goes to you because you had a terrible experience investing outside of your market. Most folks tend to give up at that point, but you had enough courage. You put the work in, you did your due diligence on us. You decided to give another go, and you chose Jacksonville, Florida. You didn't have this amazing community that we have right now. And then when you got there and you started looking at the inventory that we showed you and said, this is how we're going to take care of your money for the next 20 years or more, you looked at the inventory and you said, that's not what I look at. That's not what I look at every single day. This doesn't look right to me. And you were willing to adopt a different set of criteria for what a sound investment would be. You leaned on us. You trusted us. And now you went from requiring a 2-car garage now to a 1-car garage. And now as we look at this property that you just analyzed, you said, listen, this thing doesn't even have a garage. And I think it's a great investment. So I appreciate you. It's really significant to go through that journey. And, what you're doing is you're leaning in to trusting a team, a team hopefully you think is worthwhile of your trust, but you're trusting a team implicitly because this looks very different than the Moline home. I know this because they're gracious enough to open up their home to our entire community and hosted the event. And it takes a big leap of faith to do that. And you really should be commended for doing that, knowing that it hasn't always worked out in the past when you've put your faith and your trust in other people in different markets.
Right. Well, I also have to commend a friend, Harold Litvin, who originally recommended JWB as a company to us. And as we looked into it, we became more positive that this would be a good way to go. So Harold, kudos to you.
Is Harold in the community? Does he come to the shows? I haven't seen him.
Harold was at our house and you spoke to him.
Oh, I remember, but I was wondering if he's showing up on the show, because we got to get him in the show.
I rather doubt it. He's quite involved in maintaining and improving properties he inherited from his father several years ago. And he's very busy. Oh, we got all three of us here.
You have two lovely ladies behind you.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. It's good to see you all. Hi, family.
It is wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much for being here and for popping in, guys.
So happy to have the
We're
First
here.
Lady and the Duchess to come in. Good to see y'all. When you're looking at these properties, how do you evaluate the cash flow versus ROI discussion? What are you looking for there?
That's a great question. I look more at the appreciation value. That seems to really drive everything up like crazy. When you put 25% down and you're using the bank's money for 75% of the cost, and they're only paying 4 or 5% interest on that money, and it's coming back to you at 16%, it adds to the return on investment tremendously.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ken, because we haven't done this exercise in a while. GC, should we run the old appreciation trick, right? Like Ken's talking about, he's looking at appreciation, right? That to me tells me that he is thinking about what market he's investing, not just what property he's investing in. And here on these sheets, we're showing a 0% appreciation rate. And why don't you explain that, GC?
Love it. Let's knock off the rust on this old little bitty here that we go down, right? Let's talk about home price appreciation. Home price appreciation is one of the most misunderstood elements of rental property investing. When I started to invest in 2006, everybody said real estate always appreciates every single year. It goes up in value. And as we learned, all of us the hard way, that was not real. Most of the time, real estate does go up in value. However, from 2007 to 2011, we learned that that's not always, and the market went down over 35% in Jacksonville and across the country. So from that point forward, everybody went the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And they said, I'm never going to factor in home price appreciation. I'm going to keep my blinders on. I don't care about what home prices do. And of course, as in most things, going to either end of the spectrum is not the right approach. And the great thing is that there's actually data to support that it's not the right approach. We're not just guessing here. There's data going back from 1982 on what appreciation rates on average are for your market and my market here in Jacksonville. And the data also shows that it is cyclical. If you go out 10, 15, 20-year segments of time, you largely have that same appreciation rate as what you did for the average of your overall market for all time, going back to 1982. In fact, Madison and I, earlier in training today, were just going through this exact example. And I said, Madison, give me any market and give me 20 years, and I'm going to guess within 1% of what their appreciation rate is. And we chose any market. We chose Cleveland. We chose Kansas City. We chose 1985 to 2005, whatever. And I was within a point every time. And so that's what we know about home price appreciation. Now, if you know what your historically accurate home price appreciation rate is in your market, then you're going to know roughly what your appreciation rate is going to be 20 years from now. And if that is higher than another appreciating market, well, then that is huge for your additional return on investment, just simply by choosing the right market. So if we know this, the criteria to be able to count on home price appreciation is time. If you are investing for a full market cycle, 10 to 20 years or longer, then you can look at home price appreciation. You can look at what your historically accurate appreciation rate is for your market, and you can plug this into this beautiful spreadsheet here, and you can start to count on this and make a excuse me. Sorry, still getting over my cold here. But you can use this to make a decision of which market is right for you. And luckily, Jacksonville stands out in this market, in this criteria. Our historically average home price appreciation rate is 4.6% each year. That's going back all the way since 1982.
Got it, GC. So number one, I think everybody wants to watch the Can GC Guess the Appreciation Rate game show, me included. And
Nice.
second, so now what I'm hearing from you is, as long as you're thinking about it in a full market cycle, you can take the historical appreciation rate and bank on it pretty much, right? So if we're going to do that for Jacksonville, knowing that investors with JWB are long-term full market cycle oriented, we're going to put in 4.6%, and this total conventional financing ROI goes from 9.59 to 27.09%. Ken, can you explain what just happened there?
Yes, when you put in the appreciation rate, that's the appreciation of the total value of the home. In other words, a $100,000 home would be worth in 1 year almost $105,000, and in 2 years, $110,000. But what you are paying for that home, if you're financing it, is $25,000 of your own cash. The bank is contributing the rest of it, and your renters are paying the principal and interest to the bank, as well as the taxes and insurance. So when you realize you can take that 4.6% appreciation rate, and that's apply it to your cash. I don't know how to do it by how Gregg does it, but it's roughly a factor of 4. You're getting like 16% additional value increase based upon appreciation alone.
Nailed it. Ken, well done. Well done. I don't know if we've had anybody who has been so articulate in explaining that. That is a first for the show. Of course, none other than the patriarch and the first family of the Not Your Average Investor show takes the cake there. So well done. And just to simply wrap everything that Ken just said up, the way you calculate return on investment is your return over your investment. When you use financing, your investment, the bottom number, is way low. Your return on your market appreciation still is high, right? And if you have a high number over a really low number, your overall return on investment skyrockets. Here, if you have, let's call it 5% appreciation, just to make it simple, that's not a 5% return. 5% appreciation when you only put 25% down is actually a 20% return on investment just from that home price appreciation plus the other profit centers that we're talking about. And that's how you get to roughly 26% for an estimated return when you include home price appreciation.
There you go. The magic of leverage. Karen's putting it in the chat, right? The magic of leverage that we like to talk about. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about it so much on the show. Ken, just really flexing those engineer muscles. You're not just a civil engineer. You're a financial engineer, my friend. And I would love to kind of show off some of your financial engineering chops, because I know you put together this spreadsheet of how you look at your investments. Are you ready to share that spreadsheet and we talk about it? I'll throw it on the screen, Ken. We got it on the screen. It's showing your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. And you did some math here on the bottom. You want to kind of talk us through some of the math that you did and the way that you're looking at this stuff?
Well, I was interested in some of the totals here. So on the left-hand side of the page, I totaled up the purchase prices of the 6 homes that we had, and that came to $1,067,000. And I subtracted from that the amount of loans that the bank had contributed to our purchases to get our net investment cost tad over $796,000. But then I was interested in where do we stand today? So I went on January 30th, I went to Zillow and I looked at each one of these properties and I recorded the value according to Zillow. And that's in the right-hand column there. You see the Cocoa Avenue went from the purchase price of 170 up to 235, and on down the list, 205, 267, 295, 246, a total Zillow value of tad over 1.5 million. Now I subtracted from that what remains for us to pay to the bank, the amount of the mortgages that we still owe, 255,000 roughly, coming out with a total net value for us of 1.249 million. The gain in value over 28 months based upon those numbers was over $480,000. And if I take the gain and divide it by the amount of money that we had invested in this, the 453,000 plus divided by 796, I come up in a period of 2.5 years with a gain of almost 57%. Now that is keeping in mind the fact that 2020 and 2021 were extraordinary years. They were above average for appreciation in Jacksonville. And it's not going to happen that way all the time, but it's going to continue. I believe it's going to continue gradually marching upward and upward and upward.
Ken, this brings a tear to my eye, brother. This is amazing. You know, somebody who cares enough about this show and this community and is as excited as you are to put the time and energy into sharing your success is amazing. You know, I usually, and I put it together as well, which I'll show a little bit as well, but you putting that to me, it just speaks about your love and excitement for this asset class, for this experience, for you to take the time to do that. I even know that you had, if you have it handy, you had like a project built on like poster board as well, right?
It's on about a 4 foot by 4 foot board, because I was curious as to where our properties lay. And when we visited you in December of 2021, we decided let's go around and look at all of our homes and take pictures of them, and then we can take that to the meetup. Well, you know, Jacksonville is such a big place. It took us better than half a day to get around to all these places. And traffic in Jacksonville, I think, moves very nicely compared to some areas. And the one thing I wanted to point out too is that although our homes turned out to be quite a ways apart, it really doesn't matter where you put the homes, as long as Gregg has said so many times in the past, you're developing in Class C neighborhoods, which are slightly below the median price range in new homes and remodeled homes. So it doesn't matter where you put them, where you buy them, you're going to find the system that has been developed by JWB to work and to provide this appreciation and the gain that you would expect from this venture.
Pablo, why is Ken so much better at this than me and you, buddy?
Man, I'm so impressed by this, right? Like the way he explained the leverage, the way that he talks about like the system that JWB has in place. I'm just like, man, I know we were just talking about that. I have a heavy schedule coming up and that I want to be able to support you. I'm just like, I think we just got to call Ken and have him be your co-host.
We might start to bring in guest hosts eventually. What do you know?
I got a project to work on, Gregg.
Yeah, I love it, Ken. Ken, that's great, man. We got a questions here from the audience. First one is Stanley Mendoza. Stanley, welcome to the show. He asks, can we rely on Zillow for his estimate? I find Zillow is inflated and doesn't take condition/year of manufacture.
Stanley, you are hitting the nail on the head, right? Zillow has a place as far as helping us learn about markets or rental property investments. And then there are places that I would not use Zillow to make a decision. Where I would use Zillow is for a market-driven data. If you want to see what the median home sales price is in your local market, search for Zillow. And it's going to be pretty close. Not going to be perfect, but it's free and it's accessible. I would not be using Zillow on a per property basis to make a decision. We should point out that Ken didn't use Zillow on a per property basis to make a decision. When he bought his properties with JWB, We did not use Zillow to help him make a decision on what the purchase price of that property is. It's actually not far off in this case, but your point is really valid. Don't count on Zillow on a per property level to make a decision. Rely on a team of experts in that local market to give you the real value based on comparable sales on the multiple listing service.
All right, JC, why don't you give us your breakdown of Ken's portfolio?
Absolutely. Well, this first one is just, Ken did such a great job. I'm going to speed through some of these elements, but this first slide are those 6 properties that Ken showed us on his breakdown there. Just seeing again, the purchase prices, you're largely seeing 170, 155, upwards of about 200,000 for his purchase prices. And you're seeing his purchase dates, which were largely about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And you see the 4 that are purchased in cash, 2 that are in financing as his original purchases.
There you go.
We've talked a lot about appreciation, and I'm so excited that Ken gets appreciation because most investors don't, but I don't want to not shine a light on positive cash flow, because where investors can get in trouble is all they factor is appreciation. If you go back to 2006, this is how investors got hurt, right? And they didn't factor in positive cash flow. Now, of course, Ken does that because he invests with JWB. We only offer positive cash flow properties. And these key performance indicators that you're seeing here are showing that. So what you see here in the top left, 6.85% return on investment. Now, Ken was showing 56%. Why am I showing 6.85? Well, what I'm showing here is average annualized returns just from the cash flows, not including home price appreciation. So I'm going to match those 2 numbers towards the end of what I share with you here. But this is just the cash flow. This is just those cash flows and that positive cash flow coming to him. So once he has that positive cash flow coming in, then Ken looks for home price appreciation. And that's what I would recommend for all of you. Been investing for about 2.5 years, $83,321 of net rental income coming to his bank account from his 6 properties. That's how he's paying his property taxes in California. That's how he's paying the life insurance bills. That's how he's doing that. And that's what's giving him confidence, of course, to invest more. A total lifetime return of $110,538. That includes the net rental income plus tax savings plus principal pay down. Still does not include home price appreciation. So over 110 grand that we've been able to deliver for Ken and his family. Ken, this is always a really fun slide because, rents have gone up so much over the last 2.5 years, and many people forget what their original expected rent was on their evaluation. Now, I should point out that JWB is extremely conservative when it comes to expected rents. And when you factor that in addition to rents rising at an above average rate the last 2 years, you've been able to generate a lot more gross rental income than you expected. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but according to your original property evaluations for your total portfolio, we were expecting to earn about $8,050 a month in expected rent. When I looked just yesterday for your actual rent on your rental properties, we're actually collecting $8,605 of gross rents for you, which comes out to additional cash flow of about $555 a month, or just about $6,660 a year of additional cash flow to take a chunk out of that property bill. How cool is that?
That's cool.
I always show the highest lifetime return on investment and the lowest lifetime return on investment. I want you guys to see I'm not just picking the winners here. You can see Ken's highest returns are at 12.05%, again, not including home price appreciation, whereas his expected returns were 10.12%, and his lowest returns are 8.73%, and his expected was just about 10.5% for that one. So not a huge range and a huge variation, but you're not all going to be exactly right at expectations. There's going to be some that are higher and some that are lower.
There you go. And then portfolio review.
All right, here's the big reveal, Ken. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. So from 2019 until current, for your 5 profit centers, this is how you have been earning, my friend. We talked about net rental income of $83,321 in your bank account, tax savings of $19,813 of taxes you haven't had to pay because of the write-offs available to rental properties. Total principal pay down of $7,404. Now, keep in mind, 4 of Ken's properties don't have loans on them. So there's no principal to pay down there. This is only 2 properties that he's owned for 2.5 years. And the resident has paid his mortgage down for him. And it's totaled over $7,400, right? If you're an investor and you're not counting principal pay down into your total returns, you are operating blindly. You are missing out on a big profit center, $7,404 there. And that's all leading up to the biggest profit center, which is home price appreciation. And home price appreciation is the biggest profit center right now, partly because of the incredible amounts of home price appreciation we've received over the last 2.5 years in Jacksonville. But even if we didn't, even if all we received was 4.6% appreciation year over year in Jacksonville, it would still show that this is the largest component of Ken's return on investment. That's why we need to consider home price appreciation as long as you're investing for a full market cycle. So this number is the number that we can sort of correlate to what Ken was showing there. I believe his number was somewhere around 425,000, according to Zillow. There's a couple of things that are a little bit different there, but we can see we're kind of in the ballpark here, 385. And, I've of course taken out selling, holding, and closing costs. And I've done the same for Ken's number as well to kind of get it comparing apples to apples. So Zillow's a little bit off, but in the ballpark, right? And an incredible value for you and for your family there, Ken. Super excited. Almost $400,000 of home price appreciation in 2.5 years. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank
JWB.
As we wrap up the show here, I'm going to make one point here to kind of, let me talk about inflation hedging. That's the 5th profit center right now. Inflation is at a 40-year high, according to the Consumer Price Index. They measure that. That's the best measure of inflation, according to the government. And it's at 7.5%. It hasn't been that same percent or higher since 1982. Inflation is a thief. You need to be investing in hard assets that go up with inflation. That is how you win in inflationary times. And that's what Ken's doing. Now, the point I'm going to make at the bottom here, Ken, this is your total portfolio expected return on investment with your actual return on investment. Okay. So I'm going to go 2 parts here. Number 1, we are absolutely beating your returns on investment. So congratulations. We are super excited. Anytime that we set an expectation here and we're above, that's where we want to be. And, I'm just stoked for you. So we expected to be at 6.85% return for your portfolio. We're at 16.6% return on investment for your total portfolio. Congratulations, bud.
That is super.
So let me just relate that to the 56% that Ken was talking about before. All right. There's a couple of different ways to look at return on investment. You can look at your total return on investment, meaning like, what did you invest and how much have you returned over all time, which is that 56% number, roughly what Ken was doing. And then you can look at return on investment on an annualized basis. This is getting into what's called an internal rate of return. Whenever I'm sharing an internal rate of return with you as an ROI, that's taking into account how much am I earning every single year on my money. And it's also taking into account the timing of the money coming in. So maybe in a future episode, we'll go over this, but 16.6% actually does equate roughly to what Ken's numbers are. Ken's just taking the all-time returns, and that 16.6% number I just shared with you is each year and also taking into account the timing of when that money comes in. So all in all, a huge win to have Ken here on the show. Thank you again for you being here, sharing your story. This has just been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Greg.
And we got a last minute question that normally at the end of the show, we wouldn't ask a question, but I feel like if we ignore this, it's the wrong thing to do. But NJ Patel is asking, have there been any fails at JWB, like things that didn't work out and clients lost money? We like to air any kind of dirty laundry. So I didn't want to just ignore that.
Oh yeah. Listen, we've been in business for 16 years. We have over 1,300 clients. We've purchased over 3,000 homes. We've built over 1,500 homes, renovated over 1,500 homes, sold over 2,500 homes. If I got up here and I told you that we never failed and that the clients never lost money, I don't think you guys would believe me, right? It has happened. It has happened. When that happens, we take a deep, deep look at that fail and we see where we can get better. But that's just real. When you look at our client list and our client portfolio over the years, right, it is overwhelmingly the clients that follow our advice, which is buy and hold for a full market cycle, they win. We've never had a client that has held on for longer than 10 years that hasn't won, that hasn't made money. So, but yeah, to your point, listen, we're like anybody out there. We're not perfect. And when we make mistakes, we are accountable. And, that's just real.
Yeah. So NJ, do us a favor, join the Facebook group, ask in there, man. We've got, 3,500 people in the Facebook group. They'll give you their honest answer, see if there's any failures. Greg, I'm sure you can pop in there, explain it more. It's end of the show, or join us at another show and ask a little earlier so we can go dive into it. But, I want to give Ken last word in a second. Cause Ken, I know that you had something that you want to share, and we're going to give you the last words. I just want to say, joining us on the radio, this is as fun as it sounds. Go to nyais.com. Join us live on a Tuesday or Thursday in the middle of the day. Same for you, friend, on the podcast. If you haven't joined us live, it's a good time. Join our community. We would love to have you. If you want to know more about Ken, he was in a past episode. It's called How Fast Can You Build Cash Flow with Rental Properties? On the podcast, it's episode 63. On YouTube, it was during a time where we had kind of like different numbers for episodes, but you can kind of find it during that time frame. It was around end of 2020 that he came on with us. So I encourage you to check that out. And I love this. I love the Thursdays with the community, hanging out with the guest investors. Really appreciate having over 40 people still on the call right now. That is a testament to, the value that Ken brings. GC, the amount of preparation that you put into this. It's awesome. I'm going to let you kind of sign off. And then I think we just let Ken finish us off here, carte blanche with whatever he says when you're done.
I love it. Let's pave the way for Ken here. Ken, I'm just going to say a quick thank you again for you, for your time, your energy, your trust. For everybody in your family who I've had the pleasure of meeting, you guys are just a special, special family and the type of family we love to serve. So thanks again.
Thank you, Greg and Bevel. I just want to say thanks to the 4 partners who saw the vision, stretched themselves, and started JWB back in 2006. They could have held their cards close to their vest and gradually accumulated more properties only for themselves. But they wanted to expand and share their vision for homeownership with others and prepared a business plan to do just that. With timely evaluations and by keeping records of various facets of this business, they have refined their plan, brought in quality employees, and opened their vision so anyone in the world can participate. They are truly Jacksonville's Men of the Year.
Wow.
So,
wow, Ken. I don't know what to say. I had no idea that you were gonna write that. I'm just gonna let that marinate for a little bit. Thank you.
well,
Thank
I've
you very
dwelled
much.
on that for the past week or so, and I just felt something needed to be said about what you guys have given to our community. Thank you.
I have chills. It's 80 degrees here in Jacksonville right now, and I have chills. I really, really appreciate you.
Thanks, Ken. As always, super prepared, so giving for our community. We really love having you on. We love Carolyn and Karen as well, the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show. Thanks so much for making time for us and over delivering like you have done. I will see you all next Tuesday. What is next Tuesday? It's the what are we going into? Just a little teaser.
Goodness.
I'm checking it out right now.
I'm a little, I'm tongue tied right now. I'm a little bit off my game.
Understanding solar land development deals, right? So Monday's the golf tournament. And then we got Nathan Fabric, who's been developing solar land development deals. If you have a plot of land out there, most people don't realize that you don't just have to put up a commercial building or, a parking lot or something like that. You can use it for solar land. And there's some really interesting opportunities out there. Nathan's going to break that down for us. Tuesday should be a super fun show. And I will see you at the golf tournament, buddy.
Oh, can't wait. We'll be reporting live, Facebook Live. Check us in the group on Monday. You guys are going to see a great experience there at the golf tournament.
All right. See you, Ken. Great seeing you again, man.